Good morning and welcome to the garden.
I was on the ground when I needed a hand and it couldn't be found. I was so far down I couldn't get up, and one day I was one of life's losers. Even my friends were my accusers. In my head, lost before I begun. Had a dream, but it turned to dust. What I thought was love, that must have been lust. I was living this trial when the walls fell in. When I laid my hand, I looked like a joker. Turn around, fate must have woke her, 'cause Lady Luck, she's waiting outside the door. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, and I don't intend on losing again. Too bad it belonged to me. It was the wrong time and not meant to be. It took a long time and I'm newborn now. I can see the day that I bleed for. It's agreed that there's a need to play the game and to win again. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, and I don't intend on losing again. I had a dream, but it turned to dust. What I thought was love, that must have been lust. I was living style when the walls fell in. When I played my hand, I looked like a joker. Turn around, fate must have woke her, 'cause Lady Luck, she's waiting outside the door. Yeah. I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, I'm winning, and I don't intend on losing again. Yeah. Thank you, Good Earth Band. I am so impressed with this music. I'm impressed that a lot of these guys, like last night, were out gigging, and they get here at 8 a.m. And what time? 7:15. Oh, my God. I mean, I applaud myself getting here at 8, so 7:15, I had no idea. What a beautiful group of people we have here today. It's Memorial Day weekend. I remember back in the day, I'm not even sure I lived here at the time or how old I was, but Indianapolis was called Nap Town because nothing was going on. And now everything is going on. And especially downtown, Speedway, the track. I'm winning is probably an affirmation that these drivers are in their heads right now thinking about. I'm winning, I'm never going to lose again. When they hit the track, we got the Pacers playing tonight. They'll go for win number 3. I really, truly do believe they're going to be in the finals because they're just that awesome. There's always something going on. Concerts are going on. I've really been impressed with the growth of the central Indiana area. And we certainly have a vision how we can fit in as the garden and all of that too regarding needs. I want to highlight a few things on the bulletin, and I know some have been on the screen. But then I was circling everything, so I won't go through everything. But there's one event that I know because they're trying to get at least 500 people there, and that's Thursday, May 29th, the Indie Action Coalition public auction. And they want as many people there as possible. The information is there. Garden Summer book discussions coming up. Blue Zones of Happiness. I saw the Blue Zones on Netflix, I think, about how healthy eating and healthy living, which I found very amazing. After class today, Betty's going to lead us in a beautiful short video, which I saw, and then discussion afterwards about grief. Certainly grief is a topic that has been on my heart with all the years I served hospice, but also just being a fellow human, right? And we lose people that we love so very much, and it's never really easy. And that'll kind of segue into what I'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about what it is to mourn or to just be sad. It's hard to want to stay in that place. A high school friend of mine ended up being Dr. Alan Wolfelt, international grief expert, wrote a lot of books. But Alan once said when he came to India to speak, he said, you need to grieve, and if you don't grieve now, it'll come out later in some fashion. So the more we embrace that loss of any kind, and we'll talk about that, because I believe that no matter where we go today, whether it be a grocery store, the track, whatever, almost everybody we meet is in grief of something, a loss of something. So we'll address that, and I'll share a couple of ways that we can be comforted in that grief as well. Once again, I loved being up here looking at all your wonderful faces and your hearts for service, your heart for people. And so we're going to segue now into the devotional moment.
I was so eager to get up here, I forgot my mic. So we have a special centering for today. This is something that Kim provided for us. And in case you can't see it, it says, "In loving memory of those who are forever in our hearts." The devotional moment today is a reading from Parker Palmer. And Parker Palmer is a Quaker writer, workshop leader, teacher, and this is one of my favorites. He based this reading, this poem, on a line from a William Stafford poem, which is written at the top. "There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change." And this poem is called "Everything Falls Away." Sooner or later, everything falls away. You, the work you've done, your successes large and small, your failures too. Those moments when you were light, alongside those times you became one with the night. The friends, the people you loved who loved you, those who might have wished you ill, none of this is forever. All of it is gone, all of it is soon to go, or going, or long gone. Everything falls away, except the thread you followed unknowingly all along. The thread that strings together all you've been and all you've done. The thread you didn't know you were tracking until toward the end, you see that the thread is what stays as everything falls away. Follow that thread as far as you can, and you'll find that it does not end, but weaves into the unimaginable vastness of life. Your life never was the solo turn it seemed to be. It was always part of the great weave of nature and humanity, an immensity we come to know only as we follow our own small threads to the place where they merge with the boundless whole. Each of our threads runs its course, then joins in life together. this magnificent tapestry, this masterpiece in which we live forever. Would you join me in the universal words of welcome, please? Shalom, salam, namaste, peace.
Good morning, gardeners. The year my mom and dad passed was really, really rough for me. I remember reaching out to Carolyn. I was like, not going to be at church for a while because church was something I did with Mom. Mom and I packed Ben up before he was a giant, and we'd go into beef and boards. He'd have his little space. And I appreciated that she told me it was okay that I was struggling. It was okay that I was questioning things. Things were just kind of a jumble because it was very unexpected. Then my good friend sent me a TED Talk with Nora McInerney, and she really helped me navigate grief, kind of put a hand on it. She kind of explained, people said, well, you'll move on. Well, you don't move on from grief. It's something that's always with you. It's a part of you because you've loved so hard. Knowing your loved ones, I was raised by my mom and dad, so they're always going to be present in my life because they raised me and made me who I am. Grief isn't a moment in time. It's chronic. It's not fatal. It can feel like it's going to be, but you will laugh, you will smile again, but it's a journey that you navigate in your own way, on your own terms. For me, grief is more kind of like the ocean. It comes in waves, and that's okay. It's kind of everyone's own journey finds them. Right now, I just kind of try and navigate my emotions. We mend our hearts, but we don't forget what helped fill those hearts. Join me in prayer. Dear God, in our heavy moments, we come to you with broken hearts. Losses we carry can feel too deep for words. Emptiness echoing in places that were filled with love. When we feel lost, hold us in your arms. Catch us, catch our tears that fall. Remind us you are near, even when the world feels so far away. Help us remember joy, even through the pain. Help us honor the love, even in silence. Give us the strength to face each day and the grace to let healing begin in its own time. Walk with us through shadows. Bring light when we can't find our own. Let peace gently find us, one breath, one step, one moment at a time. Amen. Now, the part I always forget, but I remembered. Thank you, because I can see that. The ministry of the garden is only made possible through your gifts. Through your generosity, we share in big and little gives, have meaningful services, and a facility to share in community. If you have the ability to give, we thank you for your generosity. If you can't give, know your presence in this community and giving heart make the garden grow.
I know your life on earth was trouble, and only you can know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the devil. You were no stranger to the rain. Go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, shout, look for the Father and the Son. Oh, how we cried the day you left us, gathered around your grave to grieve. Wish I could see the angels' faces when they hear your sweet voice sing. Go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, shout, love for the Father and the Son. Go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, shout, love for the Father and the Son. Go to heaven and shout, love for the Father and the Son.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kim. That was beautiful. I thought I'd bring some Kleenex with me just in case I need it. It's also Memorial Day on Monday. Sometimes we kind of forget that with everything else going on. Usually a time the last few years when I'll make a drive to Crown Hill Cemetery up on the newer north section for veterans. That's where my dad's ashes are. He served in the Air Force. And my dad loved a little cold beer every day, so usually symbolically I'll just bring a can of beer with me, because I don't really drink beer out of a can, but I'll bring it with me and sit with me, and I'll sing Fly Me to the Moon to him. No one else is around, so it's okay that I sing that. It's his favorite song. As a matter of fact, inscripted under his birth date and when he died and served in the Air Force, we have Fly Me to the Moon engraved on there too. So we all have our rituals. You know, this morning we continue with the second beatitude that Jesus divinely downloaded from his time on the mountain. Mountains in the Bible symbolize a place of higher consciousness. And in this second beatitude, which ironically happens to fall on Memorial Day weekend, blessed are those, the translation says, blessed are those who are sad, blessed are those who mourn, they will be comforted. I think in some ways, my first take on that was he wants us to experience an open-hearted life. Because I've realized that when my heart is open, and I've learned also the hard way in my life, it's only when we fall in love with something that we can't help but want to protect it, be it the environment or be it a loved one, and when they die and our hearts are open, we grieve. And it's deep. In hospice, we always say deep love, deep grief. And yeah, there is no timetable. There is zero timetable. We throw that out the window. People grieve differently. I'll share a couple of stories here shortly. But I know that I have friends, one of my friends, well, I'll get into that when we get to that point, but I've learned that. But it is important to grieve. And how strange it is, I often thought. Think about this. How strange it is that the nature of life is change. I heard a pastor once say, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not break. I've gone to that a lot. And if I'm really into a message, you'll see me weaving. You don't know me quite well yet, but I'll sometimes weave a little bit. The nature of life is change, yet the nature of human beings is to resist change. And how ironic that the difficult times we fear might ruin us can be, in time, the very ones that can break us open as we continue to walk through that valley of the shadow of grief. Now, I mentioned earlier that we can grieve over a lot of things. I had this handout once that Sister Olga from Oldenburg gave to me. And on it is a list of things, such as the loss of a loved one, loss of a pet. My dog Harley died 2 years ago. I still talk to Harley. I grieve over Harley's death. A breakup or a divorce, major life transitions, being unable to achieve a goal or fulfill a dream, not living a life we hoped we would live, a friendship breakup, the effects of big decisions, even when those decisions are ultimately good for us, can be a loss and produce some grief. Moving to a new location, losing a job, or switching careers, a faith transition, or a shift in other beliefs. These are all things that we can grieve, and sometimes and often we need to go through that same grief process as well. And I know for a fact that everybody in this room has already suffered loss, just based on that definition. We all have. And it does hurt. And to some degree, it can be even deeper. Grief is often described as a profound sense of loss, but it's much more than that. It's love where nowhere to go. Love with just nowhere to go. It's a seemingly endless river of emotions that can consume you as you navigate or try to navigate the pain and the heartache that you're feeling. For example, when you love someone deeply and they're long or with you, it's as if a piece of your heart has been ripped away, leaving a void that feels impossible to fill. I have a lot of friends that are widows and widowers. So I've talked to a lot of folks, separate from just the hospice work that I did. And that's when I knew for a fact everybody grieves differently. We just need that time, and it's going to be different. Some recover and are ready to start back in their life, and maybe in a year or two. Some, it takes a little longer. Now, the first story with photo is something that affected me personally, Lisa Morrison. And on these stories, I just printed off what I wrote on Facebook. I often post stories on my Facebook page, because it helps me cathart and it helps me to honor the people. Yeah. So I'll just read what I wrote when I made that post. Remembering my friend Lisa Morrison, who passed away on January 24th, 2016. This photo was taken on February 12th, 2015. Lisa was serving as senior producer as my radio show. I was honored by that because years earlier she had a very successful radio career at WTTS down in Bloomington and with her syndicated Roots Diner radio show. I met Lisa because I thought it'd be cool to have on a radio show information about the Tibetan Cultural Center, one of my favorite places to go to in Bloomington, to walk the grounds. And that was founded by His Holiness the Dalai Lama's brother, Norbu, who, when he was alive, he was a professor at IU in Bloomington, which is why the Dalai Lama often came to the Bloomington, Indianapolis area to see his bro. He has since passed. But he's the one that reached out to Lisa because of her background and said, man, you are so good at promoting things. We need somebody to help us. Could you volunteer your time to be our PR person at the Tibetan Cultural Center? She said, yes. So when I reached out, she called me back. And that's when I found out about her background. I said, what? You were the morning DJ on TTS? I used to listen to that. And Roots Diner, and she did a lot of these big events and such, but she could light up a room, as you could see with that smile. That was Lisa. She took me to Q95 because she was doing something for them up there, some kind of event she was helping to promote for them. I would meet her always when I went down to Bloomington at the Uptown Cafe. That was our favorite spot. I wanted a mala, and a group of Buddhist monks were going to be coming in from India, and they had these crates of malas that they made so they could sell as a fundraiser. And I realized I left it in my bag, but if you want to see it, I'll show it to you later. So Lisa said, hey, why don't you come down and you can pick out a mala? I said, wow, thank you. So I remember going down there, and there's Lisa smiling, and there's, I call him the head monk, maybe a Rinpoche. He's the only one who spoke English. He's smiling, and all the others are staring at me. And I'm sweating. I feel like, what if I picked the wrong one? Is this a game? I don't know what. And it was filled, like worms. It was filled with malas. And I picked out one because it was green. And I wasn't sure what that meant. Green Tara, very good, very good. I said, okay, thank you. I took it home. And a couple days later, Lisa reached out. And she said, hey, we're about due to meet. Why don't you come down to Bloomington? But by the way, the Rinpoche said, you picked the wrong mala. I said, what do you mean I picked the wrong mala? So I went back down, and she said, well, let me share you the story. So I sat across from her, and she's a beautiful storyteller. She's weaving this story, how he said, the wrong mala, this is the mala, this is the mala. And then he took it into one of their ceremonies they would have, and he sat higher, and there was 3 hooks up there, and he put the mala on the hook, and 3 different times he would take it down, blow on it, and put it back on. By then, I'm like a fish that just got hooked. I said, oh my God, really, really, really? I can't wait to find out what this mala's all about in this story. She had me. And she said, you want to see it? I said, hell yes, I want to see it. Get it out of your purse. And she brought it out, and she said, guess what it represents? And I said, I have no idea. And she said, impermanence. And he had no idea I worked for hospice. He had no idea that I had been touched by death too often in my life. And I started crying right there in the booth. Not only because of his intuitive knowing, but the gift that was given to me. And in honor of Lisa, I always have it in my little man purse over there when I go to make appointments and such. But it meant everything to me. Lisa and I were going to meet again. She had a lot of connections with musicians. We had the drummer of John Mellencamp came on because she knew him really well. Forgot his name now, guys, but anyway, he came on. And I hadn't heard from Lisa. And then finally her son, who I had met, called and said, well, you need to know my mom died in a car wreck. And she died in a car wreck in Bloomington at age 46. She was only 46 when she died. And I was just stunned. I didn't have tears in my eyes. I just was stunned by that because she was so full of life and gave. She gave always to people. She was so generous. When I went down to meet some of my B-Town friends down there at the visitation, it was packed. The line circled twice outside of the funeral home just to get in. So that was one of the times I experienced collective grief, when numbers of people have a loss, whether it be somebody like Lisa, it could be a president, it could be the loss of our democracy or freedom in our country. There is such a thing called collective grief as well. But she always will have a special place in my heart, and I always have that mala with me, and sometimes I'll put it in my hand when I'm driving someplace because it just gives me a lot of peace of mind. And it taught me more about my own grief journey, because I remember years ago, someone who I knew very well, she was a therapist, Kay Whitehead, I'll share her name, and she's retired now, but she was also a hospice social worker, and she said, Richard, you know you don't grieve. I said, what do you mean I don't grieve? And she said, yeah, look at the work you're doing in hospice. And I realized I didn't. Just unconsciously, I guess I was walling off my heart too, so I could just keep going and keep going. But Lisa made a big difference to me. And then the other story I just wanted to share, it's the next slide. Paul and Kathleen. Kathleen was a dear friend of mine I'd known for a while, and lived on the north side, got online, met this beautiful guy named Paul. They fell instantly in love. Both had been married before. He lived in Canby. And theirs was one of those stories where people would be envious of the love they had, because they were two peas in a pod. And about 3.5 years after they had dated, she reached out and said, well, Richard, we would love for you to officiate our wedding. Would you be willing to do that? I said, oh my God, Kathleen, I'd be honored to do that. And it was held at Paul's house in his backyard. And they also had a big barn back there that they had the reception in and such, but it was outside. It was during summer, beautiful weather. She was friends with a musician named Gene Deere and had Gene Deere and the band playing there live. They were over here. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Kathleen was walking out of the house on the sidewalk. That's where she came down the aisle, and that was a photo of us. And I think that's the most beautiful photo of those two. It was wonderful. And then I got the call on a Saturday morning, I don't know, 7-8 months later, and Kathleen's sobbing. And she said, Paul died. I said, what? He was only in his 50s. He was younger than her, right? You think, well, someone younger, older, whatever. We play that game a little bit. We never know when it's our time. I drove over there as quick as I could. By the time I got to the house, Kathleen still had her long kind of robe on. Paul's head was in her lap. He was laying on the floor. He went out to look at a small tree he planted. Yeah, it's looking good. As soon as he walks back in, he just dropped over, sudden heart attack. So I sat there with her for a couple of hours as family would come in. He had a large extended family. Grandkids would come in to kiss, Grandpa Paul goodbye. And then I found myself officiating his funeral. So this is what I posted. And on September 24th, 2016, I had the joy of officiating the wedding of Paul and Kathleen. This photo was taken at that blessed event. They've shared a deep and passionate love for each other, for their blended family, and for life. Later this morning, I will be officiating his funeral. Paul made his transition last Saturday. His death was totally unexpected. In the blink of an eye, life can change. Death serves as a wake-up call for life. We will all die. None of us have forever on this earth plane. So the time to live is now. The time to love is now. The time to forgive is now. Sharing words of love, sharing words of appreciation and encouragement should be shared now. I ask that you hold Kathleen and her family in your heart, and please send your prayers of love and support to Paul and Kathleen's family and friends. I'm reminded of the words of John O'Donohue regarding the death of a loved one. They seem fitting regarding the life of Paul. And John wrote, "May you," and I inserted Paul's name in there, so may you, Paul, continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love until we see your beautiful face again in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again. So what do we do when we're faced with tragedies like this, and specifically the loss of a loved one? Some of you know this other gal, and I remember when I got the news because I was texting with her 3 days before she passed away, and that's a lovely young lady who was a jazz singer and musician, and she had some surgery and didn't recover. She was 63 when she died. That was, 2-3 years ago. And we used to do these, ironically, art of living workshops together. And I remember getting that word. And once again, there was collective grief in Bloomington during that loss as well. But here's something that came to me many years ago. Because all of us have gone through loss. But how do we get comforted? Blessed are those who mourn. They will be comforted. Well, there's 2 ways that I want to talk about today. There's probably way many more than that. But the first way came to me many years ago. I had attended already a lot of deaths. And there was one particular patient, I remember the room she was in at Brownsburg Meadows, and I got called to say, could you go support the family? She's close to dying. She was active, and her son and daughter are there at bedside. So I walked in, and there she was. I'll just call her Barbara. And she was really close. And I saw the daughter here, son there, and they were grieving appropriately, tears, and telling her it's okay to go, and all those kind of things that some of you have probably experienced. And then they sat down, and I was at the foot of the bed. So I walked around, knelt down next to her as if I was whispering in her ear. And what I've learned also, don't worry about what to say, right? Don't worry. The words will come, or it's best not to use any words. But here I am, and I'm telling her very quietly, it's okay to go. And the download, I call it divine download, I got was this. How many of you, first of all, are aware of the book Zephaniah in the Old Testament? Yeah, that's usually the response. I don't know if one preacher ever preached out of Zephaniah. It's in the Old Testament, 3 chapters. But dig this. This verse came to me, and it's a powerful verse. I think about it all the time now. Zephaniah 3:17 says, God is in your midst, and he's singing over you with joy, and quieting you with his love. And when I first read that, I remembered a time years ago when I was married, and we had our first child, Jake, who's now a Mr. Business and Finance adult with 3 kids of himself, and Betsy, my daughter-in-law. Jake was a baby, and I was in seminary, and he was sick. And we didn't know what to do, and we took him to the emergency room, and they were taking some tests, and they had a few ideas, but they said, well, here's some medicine here, and it might take a while, but we'll find the results hopefully tomorrow. So Jake is crying again. It's nighttime. We had this apartment where they had a radiator heater. Radiator heaters, anybody remember those? Sometimes they like snap and pop a little bit. And I remember that. I remember a light in the wall, one of those night lights, a glow. And it was my time to get up because he kept crying. And I was in a panic. He was my first child. And I love this little guy. And I didn't know what to do. So without thinking, I got in the rocking chair, and I held Jake, who's now 6'2", in my arms, and I stroked his hair, and I just started singing because I didn't know what to do. And I don't even remember what I sang. I started stroking him, and I was rocking him back and forth, stroking his hair, and eventually he fell asleep in my arms. Funny thing is, years later, I met him for lunch in Broad Ripple, and I shared that story with him. I said, Jake, don't you remember? He started laughing. Dad, I was a baby. I don't remember that. But I thought about that. So here I am with Barbara, and sometimes not knowing what to say, even as a hospice chaplain. So I started stroking her hair. And I started sharing in a very slow cadence, God is in your midst, and he's singing over you with joy, and quieting you with his love. God is in your midst, and he's singing over you with joy, and quieting you with his love. And he might even be, Barbara, holding you as a parent would a child, just rocking you back and forth. Back and forth. And then the second download I got, for a second I thought, really, God? Was Bob Marley. And every little thing going to be okay. Every little thing's going to be all right. And I'll never forget, I don't know how many times I said that, but at the end of God is in your midst, and he's singing over you with joy, and quieting you with his love, and every little thing's going to be all right. Boom. She took her last breath. One of the most peaceful deaths I've ever experienced. Now, since that time, it's happened 3 other times. Same verse, same prayer. Got to the point where the team joked about, say that death prayer. I said, I'm not angry with you enough. No, I'm not going to say that death prayer. But there was something peaceful about that. So I know how I felt as a father. How peaceful that felt, holding that little guy in my arms, not knowing what else to say. But God is in your midst right now. Because there might be somebody in here right now who's coming here hurting or thinking about somebody. I don't know. But I know enough to know that somebody's dealing with something. And I want you to know that God is in your midst always. And Father, Mother, God, we are perfectly parented. Those of us who might not have been in an earthly way, we are perfectly parented. Is singing over you with joy, and quieting you with his or her love, and holding you close. And I don't know how many times I've taken great comfort with that over the loss of a loved one, or what I see playing out in my country, because I grieve over that as well. But I know there's someone bigger than me walking by my side, and it's beautiful. But here's the second thing, and this is what gardeners are good at, and what we want to do even more of as we continue to grow and get a bolder vision of our involvement in a community. We comfort one another. It was Ram Dass that said we're all just walking each other home. One of my favorite quotes. Think about that. We were all born to die. Birth, death, life, death, all part of the same coin. We're all just walking each other home. No one's any better than any other. Doesn't matter what station of life we are, color of skin, tribe, doesn't matter. And I love this quote from Henri Nouwen. He reminds us this: when we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives mean the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. The friend who can be silent with us in a moment of despair or confusion, who can stay with us in an hour of grief and bereavement, who can tolerate not knowing, not curing, not healing, and face with us the reality of our powerlessness, that is a friend who cares. Now, I think of the word resilience when I think of grief, because it takes that to get through it. And as a boy growing up in Springfield, Illinois, I, of course, was indoctrinated in Abraham Lincoln. He's still one of my all-time heroes. So if you get back to the faces on Mount Rushmore, I would keep Lincoln and maybe have Jesus and Gandhi and King on there. But I'd always have Lincoln up there. But I wanted to share just briefly what Lincoln had to go through, because to me, he's my hero when it comes to loss and grief. Lincoln was born into poverty in 1809. In 1816, Lincoln's family was forced out of their home, and he had to go to work to support them. In 1818, his mother died. In 1831, he failed in business. In 1832, he ran for state legislature and lost. In 1832, he lost his job. That same year, he decided he wanted to go to law school, but his application was rejected. In 1833, Lincoln borrowed some money from a friend to begin a business. But by the end of the year, he was bankrupt. He spent the next 17 years paying off that debt. In 1834, he ran for state legislature again and lost. In 1835, he was engaged to be married. Anne Rutledge, the love of his life. But his fiancée died, and it broke his heart. In 1836, Lincoln suffered a total nervous breakdown and was confined to his bed for 6 months. In 1838, he sought to become Speaker of the state legislature and was defeated. In 1840, he sought to become elector and was defeated. In 1843, he ran for Congress and lost. In 1846, he ran for Congress again. This time he won and finally made his way to Washington. Only in 1848, he ran for re-election to Congress and lost. In 1849, he sought the job of land officer, but was rejected. In 1854, he ran for Senate of the United States and lost. In 1856, he sought the vice presidential nomination at his party's national convention. He got less than 100 votes and lost. In 1858, he ran for the United States Senate again and lost again. Then, in 1860, Lincoln decided to run for president. Based on what? His track record? Think about that. I get a pity party if I lose at something. All his life, that's all he knew. But he had a sense that there was something more he was called to in his faith in God. He wasn't a church guy, but he had a faith in God. He won. And he went on to become one of the greatest presidents in the history of the United States and one of the finest models of leadership in modern times. And in a speech, Lincoln said, "The path was worn and slippery. My foot slipped from under me, knocking the other foot out of the way, but I recovered. And I said to myself, it's a slip, not a fall." So, someone else who knew something about loss, and I'll close with this. Anne Morrow Lindbergh. Her husband Charles, internationally known pilot. Something else that was internationally known and tragic was when their baby was kidnapped and killed. And there was other trials that she had to experience, and eventually her husband died before she did. She wrote this: "Don't wish me happiness. I don't expect to be happy all the time. It's gotten beyond that somewhere. Wish me courage and strength and a sense of humor. I need them all." So I'll close with this for me. Don't wish me happiness, for I no longer expect it to be a constant companion. Life has taught me that happiness comes and goes, like waves on a shore. Instead, wish me courage to face life's challenges, strength to endure its trials, and a sense of humor. Oh, a sense of humor to keep me light in the dark moments. These are the tools I will need most as I navigate the unpredictable journey ahead. Happiness will find its way back, but courage and resilience will carry me through. Blessings to all.
so long. For this night I pray that a star would guide you my way to share with me this special day. Ribbons in the sky for our love. If allowed, may I touch your hand, and if pleased, may I once again, so that you too will understand. There's ribbons in the sky for our love. This is not a coincidence, and far more than a lucky chance. But what is that was always meant is a ribbon in the sky for our love. Love we can lose with God on our side. We'll find strength in each tear we cry. From now on, it will be you and I, and our ribbon in the sky, ribbon in the sky, our ribbon in the sky for our love. A ribbon in the sky for our love.
Oh my goodness. Man, that was one of the most beautiful songs I've heard in a long time. Who wrote that song? Of course it was Stevie Wonder, but you were amazing. Thank you for that. Brought tears to my eyes also. You know, it always makes my heart smile when I see all of you here, and I have the privilege of standing up here and looking out upon you. I want to wish you a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. It has a lot of meaning for a lot of people. If you're going to the race, have a great time. If you're going to watch it on TV, that's wonderful. I'll probably be old school and still listen to it on the radio. Remember all those who gave their lives tomorrow, especially the men and women over the years to fight for freedom for our country, and loved ones who've passed away for us. But that song was so perfect and beautiful, and that's what I wanted to share. So are all of you. You're perfect in your imperfections, and you're beautiful. And I want to thank you for that. And you all have compassionate hearts and hearts for service. So as we leave this building today, if you're not going down to 111 afterwards, I just want to close with this benediction, my favorite prayer. God, help us to become masters of ourselves so that we might be servants of others. Take our minds and think through them. Take our lips and speak through them. And take our hearts and set them on fire. Have a beautiful weekend. God bless you, everybody.